Yeah, because it's a question that come up almost every day by the teacher saying, okay, hey, but how can I fight, you know, against students creating an assignment using, AI. And so that's where definitely there is a big shift. We need to assume that now AI is part of our learning environment. And as you said, AI becomes a partner. AI becomes a co-agent of the learning and the teaching actually on both sides. We all have to deal with solving information problem every day. It starts when we get up. What should I wear? What is the weather like? But you have also a definitely big higher question, philosophical question.
Now something seems to be shifting in that we're starting to move beyond human intelligence and we're now moving into shared intelligence or co-intelligence.
Numbers of time when I heard library will not exist anymore. We will not have books anymore. And the fact is, 15
we
years
still have books.
We still have books. We still have a space. We still are at the center of the learning.
And the question that comes to mind for, the library or for librarians or for all of us really is, what does that mean now for academic integrity? I'm so excited for us to talk a little bit about artificial intelligence. That's something that is being talked about in schools a lot these days. And I was thinking about you the other day, Pascale, because you've been at AIS a while now. You have seen a lot of change at AIS. I mean, you were probably at AIS, you're definitely at AIS before the laptop program, the one-to-one program was brought in, maybe even before there was like Wi-Fi internet across the school. And now we see this, every student obviously has access to internet, but now they're beginning to have access to these artificial intelligence tools. So I'm just wondering, what are you noticing about AI at AIS, like in the last 18 months or 2 years? What have you seen happen?
Okay, so yes, thank you for this invitation, Joe. So yes, I'm Pascale Viala, and I'm the Associate Director of Library Services at AIS, and I'm, working with the Innovation Department. And that's one of the key things that I will mention in a way is that traditional libraries are very often either working in isolation or part of, the different school section. But at AIS, what is a little bit special is that we are belonging and reporting to the innovation department. And probably that helps explain, to answer your question, how, technology and the development of use of technology for teaching and learning evolved through AIS and how I see the role of the libraries in this evolution. So definitely 18 years ago when I joined the library, we were the only place where we had a computer lab. So we had a room with stations and computer labs. Classes were coming and the librarians were assisting in how to search online and having access also to language learning platforms where you could repeat and develop vocabulary and listening and speaking. So I saw those disappeared, and then we introduced, starting in 6th grade, the laptop 101 program with all the challenges of putting those new technology in the hand of teachers, hand of students, and also dealing also with the parents. So that's an element that we will maybe talk about later. And then Google and the platform and searching online that already changed, and numbers of time when I heard library will not exist anymore. We will not have books anymore. We will, be totally virtual. And the fact is, 15
We
years
still have books.
We still have books, we still have a space, we still are at the center of the learning. And definitely that's my passion. It's that the world is based on, information. We all have to deal with solving information problem every day. It starts when we get up. What should I wear? What is the weather like? But you have also definitely big higher question, philosophical question, and essential question about what, how the world will evolve, how we will be able to solve those big issues. And then we see now AI, which arrived exactly 3 years ago in 2022. November 2022, ChatGPT, the public version was released. And immediately, at least on my side, I realized how much this new technology, when I say new, let's be careful. It's not new, but it was new for the public and definitely new for education. And it's funny how to see that it's right now, 2025, that we are hearing all the schools, all the vendors, all the platforms. The education is just very. I don't. I don't would say that it's exciting. There is this part of urgency to be ready to work with AI, and in the way, for me at least, I knew ahead deeply that yes, it will come. But I feel like we are joining this maturity of awareness, development of platforms that are available in the education environment, and then bring us those big questions about how education and teaching and learning will look like in the world of AI.
Yeah,
So
there's sort of this, I wouldn't it's almost like a continuum, but maybe a swinging back and forth. Depends on the week and what new tools or new things have been released. There's either this level of panic or this level of there's so much potential here with these AI tools. And we all sort of like tinker or teeter back and forth on which one of those we are feeling at any given time.
definitely, yes. And right now, after the panic, I think we are in the face of a dilemma of, okay, what should we do? And those are very true and valid questions. And so the problem, but it's a little bit the same thing with, access to the computer 15 years ago and access to Google. We were talking about the digital native. We are exactly in the same phases of, AI native, students and potential teachers, and how uh, schools and our education environment need to adapt in order that what is done natively needs to be compensated by understanding how those chatbots and how the computer system works behind the amazing tool that give you answer for everything and can be a partner of thinking, a partner of creating, a partner of designing, drawing, filming. So all these apps that goes with the use of AI.
Pascal, there was definitely like what the difference between being a digital native or not. Us as adults at the time, we didn't sort of grow up with the computers and the internet and such. So there was a digital native versus those that were not digital natives. But there was also the digital divide. There were a number of people around the world that still, they don't now, but back then as well, didn't have access to the same technology. And we begin to sense a difference in those countries and communities that did have access to laptops or computers and the internet, ubiquitous wireless internet, and then those that didn't. And I'm thinking back to that UNESCO report that was released just recently in September 2025, where it brings up the same issue with the generative artificial intelligence that's now being developed. There's still a lot of the world that doesn't have access to these tools or to these, um, uh, these technologies. And so, what are we as humans going to do to help alleviate that and to ensure that that gap doesn't become even more wide? And then also, how do we develop the capabilities to understand what the biases are? There's a lot happening here. And, I'm just kind of trying to be cognizant of the fact that we live in a part of the world where this is rich and very, like, we have very easy access to it compared to many parts in the world. And so we have a responsibility to help our students be good citizens with it, but also to be literate, to have a certain level of AI literacy. Which brings up the role of the library. There's such a, for us, because it's so ubiquitous and so many of our students are already using it and we are using it internally within the school, the role of the library in this literacy for artificial intelligence is really, really important.
Yes, and it brings this, now different level of literacies that are required to be able to be really AI literate. So there is the practical thing about, okay, how to use AI. And that's one part of the skills that needs to be developed. Understanding also and I would say also that the basic understanding on how those large language model and Gen AI tool are developed and built in. And maybe it will address what you're saying about the digital divide or the AI divide, is that, as you said, the rich countries have developed those chatbots and they are releasing that to those rich countries with data that has been trained, that has been used to train those chatbots that are maybe not universal or definitely not universal. So that's part of the divide that we are observing or that we have to face, is that not only we can question or see that not all the countries will have access to the technology that requires electricity, that requires a laptop, but now requiring the chatbot that represent themselves, that take into account their situation, their environment, their culture, their way of thinking, their way of the language is also part of something that is really human related, really human centered, that an AI chatbot can learn automatically if it has not been purposefully trained this way. So the chatbot that we have today are probably the more like modern and rich countries' way of thinking. I'm not literate enough in order to know if we have chatbot coming from, very strong coming from Asia, Africa culture, but that's the fact. The one that we're using right now around us are from these big tech company that are, either American ones or European ones. So that's one of the point addressing the AI divide point and how our kids need to understand these elements. The second part, what you were talking is that the different literacies is that when you know how those chatbots are working and models are working, it's how to use that, not forgetting the essential skills. You still need to know how to read. You still need to know to comprehend a text or a recording or a video or anything. It's just creating another material. That's what AI is doing in a way. It's creating new information of different kinds. And so the way that we are creating this information and dealing with this information is crucial. So we are not thinking that it's exactly the same kind of sources that the one that has been developed by I don't know, a team of experts or a researcher or even, a real person behind a social media or a blogs. How continuing to help the student to understand, the different type of information. So which more related to the information literacy and using the same skills that you need to have when you're interacting with different information format sources and how to use that using your critical thinking and how to use that in a responsible way or ethical way. Those skills are exactly the same.
They are the same. It's just expanded a little bit to these additional newer technologies and tools. Pascal, one of the things that was brought up in the UNESCO report was how traditionally education, well, it was referencing the changes that are on the horizon in education as a result of artificial intelligence, because until now, education has primarily been a human focused, human only endeavor. It is something that we do with other humans. We do it as a human along with other humans. Obviously, we do it individually, but we collaborate with others and we build new knowledge and new understanding. But now something seems to be shifting in that we're starting to move beyond human intelligence and we're now moving into I don't know, shared intelligence or co intelligence. And the question that comes to mind for the library or for librarians or for all of us really is, what does that mean now for academic integrity? Because academic integrity has been something that is human centered, human focused, the individual or the person only. And now, if intelligence can be shared, or if it is something that is co designed or co created, what does it mean for academic integrity? Do you have thoughts? Have you given some thought to this question? It's pretty deep.
Yes, definitely, because it's a question that come up almost every day by the teacher saying, okay, hey, but how can I fight, against students creating an assignment using AI? And so that's where definitely there is a big shift. We need to assume that now AI is part of our learning environment. And as you said, AI becomes a partner. AI becomes a co-agent of the learning and the teaching actually on both sides. But when we say partner and co-agent, for me, I try to think about the academic integrity and saying, okay, what is the level of interaction that I had with an AI chatbot? How do I behave as a human with my co-partner, which is an AI? Do I ask a question, take the answer, I'm done, and I give that to my teacher or I give that to my company in the future? That could be that. Is that okay? And you heard probably about some example recently in the real world where consultant company were providing reports to a company client that was AI based, and the consulting company has been sued. So I think that we see that there is still a value of, the human centered, the real analysis or the human part of the analysis to capture maybe the messy part of the human part that might not be captured by the AI. But for me, at the end, the academic integrity is this: how much of my final work, my end product, is coming from me 100%, AI 100%. And actually, there are so many in between. Let's take or imagine that a student has to do an essay and then is starting with a brainstorming on a whiteboard and saying, okay, hey, that is my problem. I want to learn about this and have question about that, and defining and following some kind of strategy. And then from the strategy, looking at where the AI can be an added value that speed up the process, help develop the curiosity, help, lower the barrier of learning or lower, then it becomes this partnership. And we may say that at the end work was 50-50% or 20-80%. We are becoming this co-intelligent where there is a part of human and there is a part of, this AI interaction. And the last elements for that is to be transparent. So the transparency is essential, is how can we document that this use AI or I use actually that exactly the same thing with, did you use your parents to help you with this, this homework or that's a little bit the same transparency. And if we lower down the pressure of saying no AI, no AI, purposefully design learning experience where you are using AI purposefully at specific point of your process, I think that we are starting to, talk about this co-intelligence. And then we are also slowing down in a way the process of AI because we are embedding those human interaction in between where personal reflection, feedback, evaluation come through the process and maybe bring the creativity or the real innovation because it will just be, we will go faster. And I have example right now with some of the students where the tasks are so hard, especially in their target language, that if AI can lower down the level of maybe reading, then the kids can do this move of getting up in order to get there. And that works well. But if it's okay, I'm asking AI, I'm here as a student, I'm asking AI to do my ad work, definitely we are in the wrong, partnership with AI. It's not a partnership. It's do that for me. So
Well,
how to make people think about how I do deal or share my part of the work.
I think what I hear you saying is there's an element, well, if we embrace the AI, it actually helps clarify what part is human and then which part is non-human, what's the co-intelligence. And by embracing it and making it something that we're not offloading our intelligence to it, but we're sharing it and it's helping us grow our own intelligence. And we lower the barrier. It's not the barrier, but we lower the pressure so that students feel comfortable doing that. Then they can have integrity because they're willing to share what process that they used, which part was theirs, which part was the co-intelligence with the technology. But if you simply outright ban it and don't embrace it, then you're leading students along this path of not being integrous. Like they're not going to be able to show integrity because they're going to be doing it and they're going to be trying to hide what they're doing. So whereas AI can give you the answer, humans can ask questions and humans can verify the answers and verify their thinking and their process, and they can reflect on the process. So it helps us identify really what is human and what is the human intelligence part and which part is the co-intelligence part. I mean, I think that's the way forward. It's going to take us a while to get there as a
Yeah, and
community.
especially because, education right now is still based on assessing the end product, the final product, and shifting all the assessment, all the exams on assessing the process is a challenge. And it takes time for the teacher to say, but I can ask a student to find sources read the sources, take notes about the sources, and give my, and fill in a Google form with the information about those sources. How can I check that is not coming from AI? They are doing that at home. And so I had recently this conversation with the teacher saying, okay, but you have ways to do that. You ask exactly the same thing. You give and you provide direction or instruction with or without AI. But if it's open AI, what do you want them at the end? Is that they are able to articulate why they choose the sources. So that's kind of the evaluation of the sources. So they can articulate that, yes, it's a reliable source. The author is interesting. It's really in the context of my topic. It's relevant to have chosen this source at this time. So that's evaluation of sources. Then they read it, and then they can just record, or you can just ask the students at the next class randomly to say, hey, pick one of your sources and talk about it. If they got the content and the learning, and okay, we're good. Even if they use AI, it's not a big deal, because what we want is them to learn about a topic. It's totally different if the goal was for them to be able to find a source by themselves. And so that we are not assessing the same thing. And it's coming back to the skills, the micro skills, the mini skills, the ATLs, approach to learning skills, and then developing. So for the teacher, it's really to come back to something very purposeful about what is this task that I'm asking to do to the AI or by the student,
And
and
the
not like global thing.
yeah, I think that teachers right now feel this pressure in that sometimes the skills that they have taught or advocated for are now becoming, some of them, less relevant, right? Because they can be produced or done by the AI. And so we're having to tweak what are those skills and make them different, some of them.
That's exactly that. And I heard exactly, oh, but it's not the new way of finding a source. Me, my option, that's why I come back to my, literacy framework. I do not agree is that we have the information literacy as valid with, information in a tablet, uh, uh, in a stone, in a papyrus, or through AI. Those skills are the same. We just need to adapt then the technology that goes with that. And it's what is hard right now. It's to, have those little kind of approaches to look at, oh, here, when I'm asking a student to find an information, they can use different strategy, different literacy to get to this content and this information. And they will be different. Searching on Google or searching on a chatbot or searching, asking question to a person or searching and finding a book, those skills are different. But at the end, they will access a source of information that they will have to interact with by reading, listening, watching, the senses, maybe touching, I don't know. And then they will have to do something with this information. But at the end, we're all talking about information intake.
Let's do a quick review. Like we're thinking about originally this sort of panic that's happening because of AI, and then whether we also, some people see it as there's such potential, and then the digital divide that's happening. Some people have technology access to it, some don't. And then we we've sort of recognized and talked about this co-intelligence that is being developed. For those that are beginning to use it at a good level, they're starting to develop the skills to have this shared or co-intelligence. And so school and learning is changing. And the idea of academic integrity is also making some shifts, slightly, where we're having to reconfigure or reconsider it a bit as a intelligence. But Pascal, in the recent months, you've been working on a change to our literacy architecture, like a new framework, or at least adjusting it somewhat. And I would love if you would just share some of your thinking and share with us what this change or this framework for literacy is like now that you're proposing.
So yes, what I really propose is addressing 5 pillar of literacies. So the information literacy is probably the strongest or the largest one because it's kind of universal over time. Whatever this technology is, we will still have to ask questions. We will asking good question. We will still have to find source of information to answer this question. We'll still have to, you know, gather elements of, answer in those sources. We'll have to analyze. We have to cite them in a way or another. Those are kind of universal. But then we have the digital literacy. For me, it's more all the techniques that help us to do what I just shared in the digital environment. So using computer, tablets, and understanding what is a search engine compared to a chatbot. What are the different companies that, because right now it's so interesting to see how the vocabulary is mixed up. And, ChatGPT, for example, has become, or Google has become a source. So how to really help everyone say, I'm using a vocabulary. I know how to be safe online. I know how to protect my data. I know how to respect each other. So those are really common skills that are embedded in the digital literacy approach. So component of the digital citizenship. Then we are talking about the media literacy with all the different type of now media. It's not anymore books. We have the social media. When you look at the information or the news, only 20 years ago, newspaper, the paper one, it was a majority. And now when you look at the data, the majority of the people are taking their news on social media. So this shift, I know, and how to understand what is behind those tech tool and those media and the algorithm that are behind those platforms. And so then we touch at, something that is true also with AI. So that could be the media literacy helps us to understand at the higher level what will happen at the AI literacy level. It's a echo chamber, the algorithm, bias that we can go through because those big social media platform, what do they want you to do? It's just to come back. And so all these, okay, my browsing speed, how long I stay on a post, if I like, if I search, how these become my searching environment. And so how me and how the student can be understanding that in order to keep a balance and not be trapped in this algorithm echo chamber. Then we have the news literacy and understanding through the news. Do we want us to be just informed? Do we want us to document something with raw data? Do they want to sell us something? Through the lens of a news, at the end, it's to sell you something, or do they want to pursue you with an opinion, or is it propaganda with myth and disinformation? How to make the difference between myth and disinformation? And finally, something that is here just to entertain me. So all this news literacy also are hard to navigate, and it's what our kids are the most, I would say, loaded with through the social media. There is a mix of everything through those platforms. And then finally, we have the AI literacy. That it's another steps that include how AI works and how we use AI and how we use AI to learn, to make, to produce things. So it's a lot. And for me, what was important is to make these distinctions and review our curriculum accordingly and not trying to do everything at the same times and really saying, okay, through the information literacy, there are basic skills that needs to be, learned from as soon as, 3K to 12, making sure that when they go to college, they are mastering that. And then they can apply that to the other literacies.
Yeah, that's a really interesting way. When you describe those and you think of them as distinct, but also very interrelated, each of them are so, like when you think of media literacy, when I think of an image, there's oftentimes text embedded in that image, or vice versa. When I'm reading a text, there are images, as a part of it, the mixed media piece, and then movies, the audio, and then oftentimes there's text along with that as well. And then AI, well, I would say not only are they interrelated in that way, each of them has a component of where you're consuming, but then you're also creating, right? So
Mhm.
there's those components of it as well. And then, as you mentioned, there is the need to know how to um, decode each of these literacies and create with each of these literacies. But just being able to use the literacy is different than how does it work? Because you need to understand technically, in a sense, how they work in order to be able to use them with wisdom.
That's definitely that. And it's where with the wisdom elements, there is this kind of slowing down and asking yourself questions. And that's, I would say, the tension that we have is that this AI literacy tends to bring us to the fast speed access to, learning, but also creating stuff and continuing. And so I think that as we are not in school, we are not in the business, we are not selling yet. That's now that we need to take the time to provide this wisdom or develop this wisdom with our students. And it's super hard. And that's the dilemma that the teachers have. They want to give the content, they have to assess certain skills that are from the past or certain format. And then we have to bring in those new skills. And we say, hey, let's slow down in order to make sure that we are, planting the seeds and the foundation to be able to work in a ethical, responsible, and critical thinking way. There is this urgency that we feel on the same time. We are human and we are not learning at the same speed as the technology and why. So that's super interesting, but challenging.
What's the relationship between that and academic integrity? So, literacy and academic integrity, in my thinking, they're like, a hand and a glove. They have to fit together. And additionally, too many times, I think academic integrity has been treated as like, let's catch the student. Like, how do I find if they're cheating or not? How do I find out? It's almost like policing the
Mhm.
students to see if they're doing what we ask them to do or not. But as we sort of wrap up here and thinking about this framework for literacy and these different components, how do you see it as empowering students in relation to academic integrity? Does it shift the discussion from policing to empowering students?
For me, definitely, it's empowering the students to look at the process that they want to use to go from a point A to a point Z. And for me, if they are in school, if they are here, is that they need to learn something. So I'm coming from, I need to learn about the topic, whatever. And then I will move from one point to another. And if I can do that with and without the use of AI, and I can just share this journey of learning with a partner or not. And whoever is a partner, but AI becomes a partner. And if it's through, interaction with my peers, with, an internship, with an experiment, with going to the theater, with my teacher, with my homework, but AI is part of this partnership of learning journey, and then acknowledging this journey, acknowledging the help that you had. There is no creation without prior knowledge. There is no, information or, a new thing. There is always participation and creativity in a way. So you are going from what you have, and then you are bringing other people, and then you create a new thing, and then you should be transparent and acknowledging that you change, you grew thanks to a source, thanks to an experience, thanks to a person, and thanks to AI today and the
Yeah,
part
yeah.
it have. So
I love
that's
that.
the academic integrity relates to transparency. And so that's where it's a shift, because teacher needs to allow the students to make mistakes in order to say, hey, I use AI for this at 100%. And the teacher is saying, okay, how can you do that differently? And so that's where those platforms where a teacher can see the interaction and model the interaction that a student may have with a chatbot can be useful, and how to design those learning experience, which is not do that for me, but step by step reflection, co-editing, revising, putting input, and so seeing how much, this, and we are actually, what I'm telling the teacher and the student is that after you have interacted with a chatbot, the result is that you have created a new source of information, and you just need to treat it as a website that you created with your input, with your interest, with your, question, personal question. It becomes your own source of document.
Co-creation.
And this
It's a co
co-create,
yeah.
and then you
Yeah.
cite it as a source and you say, hey, I did my brainstorming thanks to this conversation that I had with a chatbot. Thank you, Gemini, or thank you for this conversation.
As a final question, Pascal, first, let me just say, I always have the best time talking with you. I enjoy it so much, and I feel like we often kind of pick at each other's brains and help each other understand things and ask each other questions. It's a really special partnership to me, you to be able to talk to about these things. So thanks for sharing your work. I love the new framework. Last question, sort of a final question. If a teacher at AIS wanted to get started with the new framework, what would you tell them practically that they could do pretty soon to get started?
I think it's what is, in a way, it's hard, but it's identifying the skills. So we are, now that I have the framework, we are working on the different big trend in each literacy. And so I would need to present this and saying, okay, hey, in these strands, which one do you really want to work? What I would say is that practice those skills in the different literacy at the formative level. It's a practice. It could be a 15-minute. I'm showing that, I'm modeling, and then now you practice and you repeat. That the thing is that accepting to learn at the same time as the students and practicing with them. That's my main. So identifying something that they want to master, and I will provide examples of how to be successful in using Google Advanced Search to find specific article in a specific language from a specific country. We need that all the students and all the teacher know that by the end of, I don't know, eighth grade. How
So
we do.
prototype. I hear like just prototype it, right? That's a low stakes, easy. Choose one of the strands of one of the different parts of the framework and prototype it along with your students. Let them have some choice in what to prototype it and test it, see how it works.
Yes. And so, of course, with the help of any other experts, you have teacher at school who have experimented on specific skills already or approaches. So how we can share that together and give this enthusiasm of, let's try it. And having also been mindful of, maybe mapping that. So when we have a success in a grade or in a class, let's say, hey, it's meaningful here in this level. Let's make sure that every student have the equal access to the development of these skills. How we do that is how do we share among, a grade and among subjects, and and then we can ask ourselves the question, what would be the next step next year or in the next unit, and how we can build up this confidence step by step to help the students to be, independent, literate, with this ethical framework in mind and critical thinking in mind.
I love it. Great idea and a great place for teachers and students to start with the framework. Pascale, it's been a pleasure always love it. Thank you for sharing today, and I'll see you next time. Take care.
Thank you.
All right, bye.
Bye.